What if I told you that deep within you lies the key to turning your very essence into gold? Not gold in the material sense, but something far more valuable, the gold of the awakened soul. What if the trials, the suffering, and the chaos of life were not meaningless struggles, but carefully designed steps in a divine process, one that the ancient alchemists understood and encoded in their mysterious texts? For centuries, alchemy has been shrouded in secrecy, often dismissed as nothing more than an archaic pursuit of turning lead into gold. But the true alchemists were not mere chemists or early scientists. They were initiates of an ancient wisdom tradition, one that recognized the transformation of the soul as the highest and most sacred work of all. In every myth, in every ancient school of mystery, in the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, the Gnostics, the Taoists, and the Kabbalists, there lies a singular hidden truth. Man is an unfinished work, a piece of base metal, full of impurities, yet destined to become divine. The process of alchemy is not about the transmutation of metals, but the transmutation of self, the death of the lower egoic nature and the birth of the illuminated spirit. But how is this transformation achieved? How can the ancient art of alchemy guide us through our own trials, struggles, and awakenings? In this video, we will uncover the hidden spiritual meaning of alchemy, from the 3 stages of transformation to the 7 alchemical processes that can help you unlock your highest potential. We will explore how these ancient teachings provide a practical roadmap for overcoming limitations, dissolving illusions, and achieving spiritual mastery. By the end, you will no longer see your struggles as obstacles, but as part of a divine process, a sacred fire refining you into something extraordinary. So, if you are ready to embark on the journey of transmutation, the path of the true alchemist, then let us begin. Are you ready to turn lead into gold? Alchemy has long been misunderstood. Many believe it to be the pursuit of turning base metals into gold, a primitive form of chemistry practiced by medieval mystics. But the true alchemists were not just seekers of material wealth. They were initiates of an ancient and sacred science, the science of inner transformation. The word alchemy itself is believed to originate from the Arabic alchemia, which in turn has its roots in the Greek chemia, meaning the art of transformation. And what is the greatest transformation of all? The awakening of the soul from its slumber within the prison of the material world. At its core, alchemy is a symbolic process, one that mirrors the human journey from ignorance to enlightenment, from darkness to light. The ancient alchemists used cryptic language, obscure symbols, and metaphorical texts to veil their teachings, for they understood that true wisdom must be earned, not given. One of the most profound Hermetic teachings states, "As above, so below, as within, so without." This is the foundation of spiritual alchemy. Just as lead can be purified and turned into gold, so too can the human soul undergo a process of purification and illumination. The impurities of the ego, the attachments, fears, and illusions, must be burned away in the crucible of experience, leaving behind only the essence of divinity. The great philosopher and alchemist Paracelsus once said, "The human being is not born perfect, but must perfect himself." This is the secret hidden within the alchemical texts, the magnum opus, or great work. It is the process through which the soul is refined, shaped, and ultimately reborn into a higher state of existence. But how does this transformation take place? What are the stages that every seeker must undergo to transmute the lead of their lower nature into the gold of spiritual enlightenment? To answer this, we must look at the 3 great stages of alchemical transformation, the journey that every true alchemist must undertake. The ancient alchemists spoke of a sacred process, one that mirrors the trials of the soul as it moves toward enlightenment. This process was divided into 3 great stages, each representing a different phase of spiritual purification, and rebirth. These stages are Nigredo, blackening, the death of the false self; Albedo, whitening, the purification of the soul; Rubedo, reddening, the rebirth of the divine self. Each of these stages is not merely symbolic, but represents a real, psychological, and spiritual transformation that all seekers must undergo. 1. Nigredo, the blackening, death and dissolution. The journey begins with Nigredo, the stage of blackening, often referred to as the dark night of the soul. This is the destruction of the old self, the dissolving of illusions, and the breaking down of everything that is false within us. In this phase, one experiences profound chaos, suffering, and existential crisis. Everything we once believed about ourselves and the world begins to crumble like a decaying structure. This is why the first step in alchemy was often symbolized by burning or rotting, as it represents the destruction of impurity. Psychologically, this stage corresponds to ego death, the painful realization that our identity, our attachments, and our worldly desires are fleeting illusions. It is a necessary breaking down, a purification through suffering, just as fire refines raw metal. This is the phase where many turn away from the path, for the darkness can be overwhelming. But those who persist, those who do not run from their own inner shadows, emerge transformed. 2. Albedo, the whitening, purification, and inner light. After the darkness comes the light. This is Albedo, the stage of whitening, where the soul begins its purification. Here, the seeker has confronted their shadows, their illusions, and their attachments, and now enters a state of inner clarity and deep reflection. This is the phase of spiritual discipline and self-awareness. One begins to cultivate higher consciousness through practices such as meditation and self-inquiry to cleanse the mind of lower thought patterns, living in alignment with universal laws, such as the law of correspondence and mentalism, seeking truth through wisdom and esoteric knowledge. Symbolically, Albedo is associated with water and the moon, representing reflection, purification, and the washing away of impurities. The fire of Nigredo has burned away the false self, and now the true essence of the soul begins to emerge. This is where the alchemist recognizes their own divine nature, but they are not yet fully transformed. A final stage remains, the true rebirth of the soul. 3. Rubedo, the reddening, rebirth and illumination. The final and most sacred stage of alchemy is Rubedo, the stage of reddening, where the purified soul is finally reborn into its highest form. This is the union of opposites, the balance of the physical and the spiritual, the merging of the divine masculine and feminine energies within. Rubedo is symbolized by the phoenix rising from the ashes, the sun shining at the peak of its power, and the philosopher's stone, the ultimate goal of the alchemist. It represents self-mastery, enlightenment, and the realization of one's divine nature. At this stage, the individual no longer seeks wisdom outside themselves, for they have become wisdom itself. They have mastered the illusions of the material world. They walk with purpose, and their very existence becomes an instrument of transformation for others. This is the goal of the magnum opus, the great work, the transformation of the mundane into the divine, the realization that the gold the alchemists sought was never external, but always within. But how does one actively engage in this alchemical process? How can we apply these teachings in daily life to accelerate our transformation? To understand this, we must explore the 7 alchemical processes, the hidden steps through which the soul is refined and transmuted. The 7 alchemical processes of the soul. The transformation of the soul is not a single event, but a series of refinements, purifications, and awakenings, much like the purification of raw metal into gold. The ancient alchemists encoded this journey into 7 distinct processes, each one representing a key stage in the great work. the sacred transmutation of the self. These 7 alchemical processes are calcination, the burning away of the false self; dissolution, the breaking down of old beliefs, separation, distinguishing the true from the false conjunction, uniting the mind, body, and spirit; fermentation, the birth of higher consciousness; distillation, refining the soul's essence; coagulation, the completion of the great work. Each of these steps is not merely symbolic but represents a real inner transformation, a shedding of illusions, a destruction of limiting beliefs, and a rebirth into spiritual power. 1. Calcination, the burning away of the false self. The first stage is calcination, represented by fire, the flame that burns away everything that is impure. This is the destruction of the ego, the beginning of the death of illusions. It often manifests as a crisis, a sudden realization, or a moment of great suffering that forces you to question everything you thought was true. You may lose relationships, face rejection, or experience deep internal conflict. Psychological lesson: let go of pride, attachment, and rigid beliefs. Burn away what no longer serves you. 2nd, dissolution, the breaking down of old beliefs. After the ego has been set aflame, the old structures collapse. This is the stage of dissolution, where the solid foundation you once stood on turns to liquid. Here, deep introspection begins. You start to see the flaws in societal conditioning, inherited beliefs, and false identities. Your old self is melting, and in this liquid state, new possibilities emerge. Psychological lesson: accept the uncertainty of life. Embrace the unknown. Surrender to the flow. 3. Separation, distinguishing the true from the false. At this stage, you begin to extract what is valuable from what is not. This is separation, the phase where you discern your true self from the illusions imposed upon you. You may experience deep realizations about who you really are. You see which aspects of your identity were forced upon you by society, culture, or past experiences. Now you begin to choose what is truly aligned with your higher self. Psychological lesson: recognize your divine essence. Discard what is no longer part of your true being. 4. Conjunction, uniting the mind, body, and spirit. Now comes the reunion of opposites, the sacred marriage of the inner self. This is conjunction, the phase where the lower self and the higher self begin to integrate. This is when you begin to embody your spiritual insights. It is not enough to understand them intellectually, you must live them. In this stage, intuition and logic, masculine and feminine, light and dark, all begin to work in harmony. You are no longer divided within yourself. Psychological lesson: true wisdom is applied, not just understood. Align your actions with your higher consciousness. 5. Fermentation, the birth of higher consciousness. Fermentation is the beginning of new life. After the breakdown and integration, a new awareness begins to emerge. This stage is symbolized by the phoenix rising from the ashes, rebirth after destruction. This is where you may experience profound spiritual awakening. Moments of deep insight, visions, or synchronicities become common. You feel an inner aliveness, a new sense of purpose. However, this phase can also be chaotic, as the old and new parts of you battle for dominance. You are awakening, but the journey is not yet complete. Psychological lesson: embrace transformation. Let go of fear. Allow your new self to emerge. 6th, distillation, refining the soul's essence. The impurities must now be removed. This is the process of distillation, where the last traces of the ego's influence are purified. This stage is marked by deep clarity, inner peace, and detachment from worldly illusions. You have tested your spiritual wisdom, refined it, and proven its truth through experience. This is where the seeker becomes the master. At this stage, you live effortlessly in alignment with divine law. You no longer seek wisdom, you are wisdom. Psychological lesson. Pure wisdom is lived, not just understood. Keep refining your consciousness. 7. Coagulation, the completion of the great work. Finally, the soul reaches its highest state of being, the final stage of alchemy known as coagulation. This is the merging of spirit and matter, the realization that you were never separate from the divine. Here, the individual transcends duality. There is no longer a struggle between light and dark, because all is seen as part of the same whole. The alchemist has become the philosopher's stone. This is the final realization. You are not becoming divine. You have always been divine. Psychological lesson. The journey is complete, yet it is also eternal. The enlightened soul now helps others on their path. Conclusion. Becoming the living gold. The ancient alchemists veiled their wisdom in symbols, hiding their greatest secret in plain sight. Alchemy is not about gold. You are the gold. The impurities, the trials, the burning and dissolving, these are not punishments but blessings, for they strip away everything that is not truly you. Through this sacred process, the human being is transmuted into the divine. The lead of the false self is burned away, and in its place, the gold of the awakened soul remains. This is the great work. This is the path of the true alchemist. And now, the question is, are you ready to begin your own transformation?